Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Beyond Taylor and I am here to help you go beyond your self-imposed limitations. And today we are going to talk about how everyone is yourself pushed out. This is one of my favorite topics to discuss because it's so mystical and it points to the nature of this is all consciousness, right? It's one thing being expressed in multiple facets, and that's just so interesting to me. It's kind of like a dream where you go to sleep at night and you're able to imagine this entire experience, and it's all coming out of the one substance, which is you. And the same thing is happening right here. And that's why the law of assumption works so well. It's because everyone is just yourself pushed out. Now, this is one of the most controversial topics in the law of assumption manifestation community. And I think it has a lot to do with the whole idea of free will and, not imposing on anybody's free will, but we're going to discuss all of that. So if you want to know more about how everyone is yourself pushed out, keep watching this video. So throughout history, humans have sought to understand their experience, right? And the truth of our nature is actually a lot stranger than fiction. The world is a projection of our inner being. So everything that we see and experience, it's nothing but a projection of what's going on within. And I know that can be hard to believe because it seems like the world is moving on its own motion. And in a way it is. We are creating reality based on our own perceptions and beliefs. There's no such thing as a world out there. There's only our concepts that are shaping the world that is out there. Now, when I first heard this, it was more comforting than anything because I always knew since I was a little kid that there was something strange about reality because I was so connected to the astral plane, because I was so connected to dreaming and how vivid my dreams were. And I'm like, there's something interesting going on about reality because my dreams felt so real. When I first heard about reality being produced inside of our minds, I was captured. And it was just very comforting, where to others it can feel quite scary to know that there's only you that's here. But that's because when you hear there's only you, you are thinking of you as the identity, as who you think you are, and not the you that's before I am. This is something that Neville said, but this is from William Blake. The whole vast world is no more than man's imagining pushed out. I must qualify that by saying that the world outside of man is dead, but man is a living soul, and it responds to man. Yet man is sound asleep and does not know it. The Lord God placed man in a profound sleep, and as he sleeps, the world responds as in a dream, for man does not know he is asleep. And then he moves from a state of sleep where he is only a living soul to an awakened state where he is a life-giving spirit. And now he can create, for everything is responding to an activity in man, which is imagination. The internal body of man is all imagination. That is God himself. So again, when I was a little girl, I was so perplexed by dreams. Because how could my mind create a world that was so similar to this one? And I would often ask my family, like, do you guys remember this? And they would, comfort me. And they would say, that did not happen. That was just a dream. But something about me couldn't accept that. I couldn't accept that answer that's just a dream. Because what does that mean? What is a dream and what is reality? From a very young age, I started out on my quest. So as I went along, my dreams started to become more vivid, and then I started to lucid dream, which made me really start to question reality, because what was that and what is this? And how do I know that this isn't just another dream? So the line started to blur for a bit. I would start thinking to myself, is this a dream? And I would often ask myself that as I was going through reality. I would ask myself, am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? Is this real? And it wasn't until I came across esoteric teachings that pretty much confirmed what I knew all along. I felt validated for the first time in my life. And I tried to proclaim to everyone I knew, guys, this is only a dream. This is only a dream. Of course, everyone rejected me and called me crazy. And again, I went into solitude, and I just couldn't understand how no one could see what I was seeing, or no one was experiencing what I was experiencing. And I felt alone for so long. And then I started to stuff this aspect of myself down because the world rejected it. And no one wanted to hear it. No one wanted to hear it when I was in other dimensions and I would say, guys, I'm dreaming. They would brush me off. When I was in this reality, they would brush me off. So, you know what I did? I just started to not say anything at all. But I was still so interested in the esoteric teachings and the wisdom. And then I came across law of attraction. And it started to make sense how the dream was being formed. It was being formed through thinking. So my thoughts was influencing the way that the dream was appearing on the screen of awareness. And that made sense to me. And this is also why you can have whatever you want, because it exists right here and now. You just aren't aware of it. So as soon as you train your brain to start to believe in new thought patterns, your brain is going to look for information to confirm these beliefs. Why? Because everything is just yourself pushed out. Everything is just responding to your assumptions about how reality works. So you're going to use confirmation bias to prove that everyone is yourself pushed out using these 3 steps. The first step, you're going to accept right here and now that everything is one and the world is just a giant mirror. Second, you're going to become hyper aware of how everyone is literally following the script that you wrote for them. Third, you're going to tweak the script and become aware of the differences that you see. So first thing first, everything is one. This is another way of saying that everyone is yourself pushed out. Now, this can be a hard concept to grasp, a hard idea to chew on, especially because everything seems so other than you. But this is the example that I use to demonstrate how everything is just the same, being broken off into different components. So let's imagine a piece of paper. Now, when you look at this paper, doesn't it just seem like one solid unit of matter, right? Now, let's say we tear this paper apart. Would you still say that it's one? No. You would now say that it's 2. Now, let's say this piece of paper is used to make a paper airplane. Now, I don't know how to make a paper airplane. I haven't made one since I was a kid. But let's just go with this. This is our paper airplane. And then this paper is used to write a poem. Would you still say that these are 1? No, you're going to say these are 2 because they're used for 2 different purposes. And you wouldn't even call it paper anymore. You would call this a paper airplane, and you would now call this a poem. Because they are now broken off in 2 and they're used for 2 different functions, you're going to label them as that. And if these objects could talk, it would identify itself as its form and not its essence. It wouldn't say I'm paper. It would say I am a paper airplane. And this would say I am a poem. And that's kind of how reality is now. We identify as our forms instead of our essence. Even going back before the paper, what was it? It was a tree. What was the tree before it was a tree? It was a seed. What was the seed before it was a seed? Potential. That's what we are. But it all came from the same beginning source. And then it broke off and started to take different functions. But it doesn't take away from the fact that this is still just one piece of paper identifying as different things. And that's exactly what's going on now. We all started from this nothingness of potentiality. And then we broke off and started to become different forms. And because we are self-aware, we identify as our forms. We identify as our names. We identify as our backgrounds. And then we run with that story. And it's good because it gives us the sense of individuality. But if we forget our true essence, we can be controlled by our narratives instead of using our narratives to create the lives that we want. So the reason why everyone is yourself pushed out is because everything is one. There is no division. The division only lives in the mind, in our thoughts. Outside of thoughts, there's just what is. And it's the same substance, the same source, the same everything. But once you start to amuse what I'm saying, as far as everyone just being from that same source, your confirmation bias will start to look for information to prove this to you. And you won't be able to unsee it once you understand that everyone is just operating on their beliefs. But outside of that, they're just the same as you are. They're no different. This is also where studying non-dualism can be extremely helpful, because you start to understand who you are before you say, I am what you are identifying as. You start to know yourself as the awareness beyond the awareness beyond the awareness, right? You start to see the illusion of the separate self, which is just a ball of thoughts that's creating the form and creating your life story. These are some non-duality teachers that I would recommend, because I think they are absolutely amazing to help you understand this concept of oneness a little bit more. Rupert Spira, Muji, Adyashanti, Marianne Williamson, and Eckhart Tolle. Definitely check them out. Now let's go into the second step. You wrote the script. The world is just following it. You are the writer, director, and star in your reality. And when I say you, I'm not talking about the small self, the one that we just talked about, the one who identifies as their form. I'm talking about you, who is prior to all of existence. That one that you can't fathom through thought is the one that's creating all of this. But there's a way that you can tap into that power, and it's by becoming hyper aware of the stories that you are telling and how the world is just following along to this story. You are writing the script. Just think about it. Think about all the thoughts that you entertain, or all the thoughts that you think on a daily basis, and start to see the correlation between your reality and the thoughts that you are thinking. And you'll see very clearly how the world is just responding to your beliefs and assumptions about how it works. Now, again, some people don't like this idea because they feel like, well, that takes away individuals' free will. You know, like if I can change my thoughts and change a person in my reality, then that means that they are just like a puppet in my show. This is just a tricky topic to get around, especially if someone doesn't have a basic understanding of non-duality, because the separate self is going to fight for its existence. So me telling you that through your mind, it's not going to make any sense, because you as the individual, you absolutely have free will, and so does everyone else. But in the grand scheme of things, no one has free will. A lot of people like to say, nobody has free will in your reality but you. I say, nobody has free will in your reality, even you. Because the you who you think you are is the one that thinks that they have free will. But even the you that you think you are just following a series of scripts that the big self is writing. And that's why it's important to connect with that bigger aspect of yourself. You cannot connect to that bigger aspect of yourself through thinking. However, when you pay attention to your thoughts, you start to see the correlation between the thoughts and your reality. And you'll be able to see how it's all projected. It's all a projection of your thoughts. That's all reality is. Is this a microphone? No, it just is. But my mind puts this construct on this as being a microphone. So I've projected this item into space. But without the language of microphone, it just is. That's how everything is in your reality. It's nothingness. However, we have created these labels, and then we started to put reality into space, microphone, space, table, space, me. But without the thinking, it's all just one thing. Our minds just compartmentalize reality, and that's just the way it is. But eventually you'll get to this point where you just shift your perspective, and you no longer view reality in that way. And when you shift in that perspective, it becomes much easier to become aware of thoughts and put yourself on a timeline of a version of yourself that is experiencing the reality that is aligned with like your ideal version of what you want to experience. So all decisions are beyond our understanding. There's something much greater than you pulling the strings to your decision making, and that something is you as consciousness. You're making your hair grow, you're making your blood pump, you're making the sun rise and set, but you have no idea how you're doing it. Because when you try to think about it, you are thinking of yourself as being your name, your age, your background, your story. But when that collapses, or it's not going to collapse, but when you see beyond that and you fall into what you actually are, you notice that what you are is giving birth to this entire experience. And that's the one that's creating. That's the one that's writing the script. And it's all about using your awareness to become hyper aware of that reality and then focusing your attention on a storyline that's going to reflect your ideal reality. It's already wrote. All possibilities exist right here, right now. Which reality are you going to become aware of? I want you guys to just become, if you're new to this, which I feel like a lot of you are not, but if you're new to this, I want you to become hyper aware of your thoughts and just see the correlation. I know I keep saying that because once you see it, it's so glaringly obvious that this is all being projected out of your concepts. And just seeing it isn't enough. Just seeing it isn't enough to train yourself to become aware of thoughts that are in alignment with the reality you want. And last but not least, we're going to tweak the script, right? So now that you are hyper aware of your thoughts and now that you see the correlation between what you think and what you experience, we're going to tweak the script. And then we're going to stay faithful to our new script about how reality works. And then we're going to allow our reality to express that to us. Because there's no way to prove this to you unless you experience this yourself. There's no way to prove this to you that you have so much power over your world because it's just yours. I don't experience reality the way you do. You don't experience reality the way I do because we have different beliefs. And confirmation bias is going to make us look for realities that's going to confirm our vantage points. So you have to experience this on your own for you to accept what I'm saying. Everyone is just yourself pushed out. Beliefs is a good way to start, but that's just the tipping point of understanding your union with all of reality. But when you start to tweak the script, which means you start to, I don't like to say think of new thoughts because thoughts are just being signaled to you, but you start to become aware of new thoughts. I think that's just a much better way of saying think, because you aren't the thinker. You aren't thinking these things. They're being signaled to you. You're just aware of thoughts that are, again, going to confirm the information that's being signaled. That's being signaled to you. All of this reality stuff is such a paradox, right? But it's a beautiful paradox, and you can start to really enjoy it and have fun with it once you see all of the ways that it doesn't make sense. But then because it doesn't make sense, it makes sense. I hope I'm making sense. So yeah, faith is wonderful, but this is beyond faith. I want you to have the experience. I want you to start with something that's very simple and provable for you. So let's say you have a idea that, you always have to wait in long lines when you go to your favorite store. Every time you go to your store, it's always long lines and it's so frustrating. Become aware of that that's a story that you're telling yourself. Start to tell yourself a new story. Every time I go to the store, I never have to wait. I'm always in and out when it's time for me to check out. And let me know if your reality doesn't reflect that new belief to you. When you start off with things small like that, or so easy for me to find parking spots wherever I go, or I'm always getting free stuff, or I'm always finding money on the ground. When you start to tell yourself this, your brain is going to look for information to confirm these new beliefs. This is what people always say when they start off with manifesting. Start off with something small and then go larger. Because I'm not saying it's impossible to start off with something like somebody in your life where you say, let's say you argue with this person a lot and you start to say, me and this person, we always get along. I'm not saying that's impossible to start off with that and then see the results from that. But I think that it's going to be much easier to sway from that because of the evidence. The feedback is the past. So the feedback that you are going to get is going to be based off of your past assumptions, and you're still looking for that because that new belief isn't strong enough yet for your brain to start looking for evidence of it. And it's too big, and you probably have way too much attachment to it. When you start off small, you start to gain faith in the process, and you start to know that the process works, and then you can move on to bigger things. I hope that let you know how everyone is yourself pushed out, and how whatever you desire in your mind, if you stay true to that assumption, right? If you keep thinking that thought, your brain is going to look for evidence to support that. There's so many different names for what this is called. It's confirmation bias in psychology. There's so many names for this. Start to utilize it. Start to see the evidence. Start to tweak the evidence in your mind so you can gather in information and start to live the life that you truly want to live. Nothing is off limits to you. That's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys are interested, this came from my newsletter that I write every 2 weeks called The Modern Mystic, where I talk about modern problems from a mystic's perspective. It's going to be linked down below. Also, if you guys are interested in working with me, I offer a 4-week coaching program for $500. If you're interested in that, you can sign up, the link below. I have a Discord group where you can talk to people, like-minded individuals, and share this type of information and share your findings and your reality and share all of your aha moments and have people to validate your experience, because there's so many people starting to wake up to this information. That's also going to be linked down below. And my last but not least most favorite thing that I love to talk about is a workshop that I have coming up where we're going to be talking about the mental diet and how we can clear our minds and only input information, again, that's going to support the reality that we want to experience, and how we can release blockages in our body that's keeping us from that reality through EFT tapping, and then how to know ourselves as the awareness behind all of experience. So if that interests you, go ahead and click the link in my bio. I love you guys, and I will be seeing you next week.